Hey TD Superheroes, my name is Alejandro Perez, I'm your psychic, and in this video we're going to take a look at the ChatGPT. It's an AI that I've been hearing a lot about lately that is able to write code for us. It does a lot of things, it's like a chatbot, but this particular chatbot can also write code for us. So I wanted to see if it could do stuff for us in Maya. So I'm gonna start off with something really simple. Create a Python 3 script to create a sphere in Maya. Okay, it starts chatting to us, it explains what it's doing. Here is a simple script in Python 3. Creates a sphere with a radius of 1. That looks good. To run the script in Maya, you can load the plugin, CMDS load plugins, myscript.py, cool. And then you can also, so it's giving us a lot of extra stuff that we don't really need, but it did give us a bit of code. Let's copy the code here and jump back into Maya, paste it. And I was kind of experimenting with this earlier, so let's clear all that and run this. Oops, I pushed play. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to just run the code. We can see that it creates a sphere. It created a NURB sphere. Let's see if it can figure out the difference for creating a NURBS and a polygon sphere. So we're going to get a little bit more specific here. And let's write, I need a Maya Python code that creates a polygon sphere. So yep, it's going ahead and taking the code, and it gave us the example for the polysphere. So let's copy that and bring it into Maya. We have a polysphere here, and we should see it in the scene. It's got a radius of 1. That's cool. So let's see if we go into the chatbot again. It gave us the same two things afterwards. Let's try doing, see what flags can you use with a polysphere in Maya. What flags are available for a polysphere in Maya Python? Okay. Maya.cmds.polysphere, and it is giving us some examples of the different flags that we can use. That's cool. So it's giving us some examples, and it knows, oh, and it's writing some code, and it shows you kind of how it could be implemented. That's really cool. Okay, so yeah, that should work, but let's copy this and bring it into Maya. Invalid flag SZ. So no, it is not correct, because these are attributes that we can set once the polysphere is created. So we already got an error with the code giving us invalid flags. SX, SY, and SZ are attributes. So if I were to actually create a sphere, we can see the scale here. It's the scale X, but the short version of that is SX, which is the attribute that we're doing here. So we can't completely rely on the AI, but it did give us something to kind of experiment with. Let's jump back into the code. Let's see if we can do something more advanced than just creating a primitive with code. So let's do create a Python 3 script that will create arm joints in Maya. Okay, it looks like it's going to be able to create something. Oh, it's even parenting them for us. It's created the variables. It didn't give them any names, so the script, the code will work, but none of the joints will be named properly. So let's go over here, run it. We have some errors. Line 9 seems parent elbow to shoulder. We do not have a, oh yeah, we do have a shoulder. What did it say? Command error, parent. Oh, maybe because I had the sphere and it was selected. Let's try running this. Line 9, it's still giving us an error here, but it looks like it parented everything. I'm not sure why we're getting an error right now, but we are getting the setup that we want. Let's see what it looks like here in the scene. It created 3 joints. It's maybe not set up in the way we would probably want it going along the x-axis, but it did create something. That's cool. Let's step it up a notch and let's see if we can. I have an idea for a project for the channel coming up to create a ribbon rig. So let's see if they can tell us how to do that in Python. So I need a Python 3 script that creates a ribbon rig in Maya. Oh, it's creating something. So it has the curve. It's creating several joints. They are spaced 1 unit apart in the Y. That's pretty cool. We're setting up some parenting. And then you are creating a skin cluster to be able to manipulate the curve. And then over here, it's talking about loading the plugin, although it's kind of writing the code again. Okay, I'm going to skip over here because I just want to copy that and test it here. So let's test it and let's see if my work for my next series of videos is done. Okay, so select it all, run it. Line 14, the parenting again. I see what the issue is. It's because it created the joints and that's why it's already parented, because of the order that they did it. So once you create a joint, let's kind of clear everything. So if I create this joint, it's selected. And if I create the next one, it creates it, the joint inside of it, and parents it. So that is the issue that we're having with the code that the AI is creating for us. So if we did cmds dot select clear equals true, we can modify this script, because I'm really curious to see what the end result is going to be after some simple modification. And then I'm also going to clear this here. Okay, now with that simple modification, let's take a look at the setup that we have here. So it didn't cause an error this time. We have the joints. We have the curve is, yep, the curve is following along. So it's kind of has an idea of what we want to achieve, but it's not doing it properly. But it is an interesting thought process of what we can do. It did paint the weights on there. It didn't do anything with the hair follicles or anything like that. So it's not really what we need, but it did give us an interesting result that I can think about for the future. So let's clear that there and let's try something else. Let's go back into our code and we'll say, create me a Python 3 script that creates a window in Maya. So I didn't specify UI, and let's see if it will create a actual like geometry for a window or if it's going to create a UI window. Let's see. Yep. So it's actually creating the geometry for the window. So that is cool. Again, not what we need. So we need to be clear with what we are asking Maya, but let's see what it created for us. So here we can paste it and run it, and we have some cubes that look nothing like a window. So I am not very afraid of this AI. Skynet is not coming after us yet, but it is giving us some fun stuff to play with because it's writing out code that mostly works. Okay, and let's modify that. I'm gonna copy this, and that creates a simple user interface. Let's just say GUI and see if it understands GUI. Create window for the GUI, window, column, text field. So this might work. It's not very clean. Let's copy this, and I want it Maya, paste, run this. So it created a window. It works. If we were to run this again, you'll see that it keeps on creating windows. So there are some issues with it. It's not using best practices for what you want to do, but it created a window for us. So if you were stuck on creating a UI, you can get some ideas with that. You can probably ask it for like creating checkboxes and tabs, and it'll give you kind of a layout that you can kind of start using if you understand the code that you're looking for. Okay, so now that we saw that, let's try the same thing, but let's, instead of just doing a simple GUI, let's try a PySide2 GUI. So right now, the code that it gave us was the version of creating a window with the Maya commands, but Maya also comes with PySide2 and PyQt. So let's see if it can figure out a PySide version of a window for Maya. Yep, it imported the PySide2 stuff. Is it going to create any classes for us? It's giving us an explanation of what it's trying to do. Let's just copy this code and see for ourselves. And it crashed Maya for us. Okay, let me pause and restart Maya. So obviously it did something wrong, and I think it's the execute app part. So let me pause and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and let's open up the script editor. We have the code here. My guess is just executing the app, and we don't need to create a queue application. Let's see if it does anything for us. Yeah, there we go. So we have a window. It has some elements in there, and we can see that it works. So it can create a PySide window for us. If you were interested in figuring out how to do some of the elements, it's not integrated into Maya, so we need to have it parented into the queue application into Maya. It's not doing that for us right here with the code we have, but it is kind of working. Oh, and it's not, because it's not part of Maya, it actually dropped behind Maya's interface, which is not, again, good practice. But it did give us something. It gave us at least a path to start looking down if we were looking at doing PySide UIs. So that's pretty awesome. It's, again, probably not production ready. Well, definitely not production ready, but it gives us a path to look on. Okay, so let's go back to the chat. Let's try creating something advanced. Let's say create a Python 3 script that rigs a character for me in Maya. Okay. It knows where its limits are. It says it's not possible to create a general purpose script that can rig any character in Maya. However, this simple script in Python 3 can be used to create a basic rig for a character in Maya. Interesting. Let's see how long it's going to be. So It says that it's not possible to create a general purpose script to rig any character in Maya. I guess technically true, but we can create an auto rig. Again, we're going to have issues with all of the joints because they're already going to be parented to each other, and then we're trying to parent them. So if I want this to actually work, I need to do the selections, clear the selections between each joint the way it's being created here. So no, it's not going to give us the whole script to work properly, but it kind of had an idea of where we wanted to start. And also it looks like it reached a limit of how long the script could be. So maybe we have to look at specific little parts of the script before we jump over to the whole thing. So there might be a limit right now to how long your script can be that it's going to write for you. All right, so let's try. I need a Python 3 script that saves poses from a character in a UI. It's creating something. It thinks it can figure it out. So it's creating a PySide 2 window, which is awesome. Like we saw earlier, if we don't want Maya to crash, we need to make sure that we delete the app variable here, and we'll see if, yep, it's running it over here. It says the script creates a GUI with a text field for the pose name, a button to save the current pose, and a list widget to display the save pose. Okay, let's copy this code. And it gives us comments, which we can look at in our code. I do want to make sure that we don't crash this time, so I'm going to delete the app and the app.execute. And let's just look at the window. Cool. And it pushed it behind. That's okay. We'll bring it back up in a moment. So it has the save pose. It has the text field. It uses the DAG pose, save true, pose name. So let's look at the command documentation for this. DAG pose is undoable, queryable, and editable. So what does it do? Okay, let's just create something here in the scene. So if I bring back that thing, test, there. So we have that, and then let's create another one, another pose. Bring this back up and moved, save pose. So it's doing something and it's adding it to the outputs. Maybe I just don't know enough to know what the DAG pose is. I'll have to look it up. I would have approached this in a different way, but maybe I just learned something, and if I did, I'll look up what DAG pose is in the future and I'll share it with you guys. Okay, now let's take a look at something like a reverse foot. So I need a Python script to create a reverse foot rig. It looks like it's got something to work with. It's kind of naming things correctly. Again, parenting going to be an issue. We already found that. But if we already know that and we're kind of coming up with these scripts, we can actually kind of modify the code that it gives us, and it will maybe give us a shortcut to be able to create the setup that we need. Okay, let's copy the code. Go back into Maya, paste this, and here, cmds.select cl equals true. Okay, copy that and copy that, paste it, paste it. Okay, and then we're doing the parenting here. Let's just make sure everything is cleared at the beginning, and let's just see what it does at this point. It did give us some warnings. It looks like it's not going to perform the way we want it exactly, maybe. Okay, so we have a control there. There was some attributes. NURBS curve, where were the attributes at? Is it on the joints? Where did it create the attributes? I know I saw them. Okay, let's just create it over again. Clear the scene. IK handle. Oh, those aren't attributes. That's just what it's creating. Okay, I get it. But let's see, it created the joints that we needed here. Then for the foot control, parented. So you can see that the constraints that it's having is not working properly. It's kind of looping on itself and creating unexpected results. So it's not actually going to give us anything useful there. But maybe we can go into our code and say, or into the chat box, and let's say we had no idea how to create a reverse. Let's see if it can tell us in words, not just with the code. So how do I create a reverse foot rig in Maya? Okay, create the joints for the reverse foot. This typically includes the ankle, ball joint, and the toe joint. Yep. Create controls for the foot that can be NURBS curves. Yep. Create a group for the foot control and parent it to the ankle. This will allow you to move. Yep. Create a parent constraint between the foot and the ankle joints. So they're never creating the actual reverse foot kind of section. Maybe because we've been talking about code all the way over here. It's telling us an example on how to do it with code. That's really funny. But it's actually never creating the reversed joints. So it sounds good, but procedurally just doesn't work. Let's ask for some creative advice. Let's say, how do I design a appealing 3D character in Maya? Okay, so it's coming up with some ideas. Here's some, it says it takes artistic and technical knowledge. Yep. Some general design steps that you can do. Sketch, yeah. Use Maya's modeling tools, yeah. Use Maya's texturing tools, yeah. Use Maya's rigging, I guess, if you were needing to rig and it wasn't just a static model, sure. Animation tools, rendering, so it's kind of giving us the character pipeline for 3D animation. So for general knowledge, I think this is actually kind of good. If I was maybe doing a video that was kind of an intro to character design or 3D character design, and it's kind of like a 10-minute overview, this would be kind of an amazing outline for a video like that. I do technical videos, so that doesn't help. Let's see if it can tell us how to learn Python in Maya. How do I learn Python in Maya? No, not in, for Maya. Nope, that's wrong. So you don't need to install Python. The current version of Maya does use Python 3. That was accurate back in previous versions. It gave us the link. That's where we would go if we were downloading it, but we don't need to for Maya to start learning. Code Academy is an amazing site if you wanted to start learning. That's cool. The Autodesk, it's looking up Maya 2018, but the help files inside of Maya could be useful. Communities, that's cool. CG Cookie, awesome. So it gave us some information that was good, but like a lot of this is probably outdated or not accurate. some of it is accurate. So it's more useful if you already know what you're doing so that you could explain it to somebody else, or if you needed to write a document, you can kind of clean up what is existing here. So that is pretty good. So I feel for like technical artists in Maya at this point, if you're doing any coding stuff, there's nothing that you really have to worry about with the AI tools here to create code to replace you immediately. Eventually, it looks like maybe they can get to a point where the AI can do some really cool stuff, but we're not there yet. There's just a really far way to go. I think the biggest benefit that this can do for us, at least for my first impressions right now, is to give us an idea of what we're trying to do with a specific bit of code. And if you can word it properly, it'll give you a close enough set of code that we can modify and use as a starting point. So maybe it understands something like a zero offset group. So create a Python 3 script that creates a zero offset groups. I guess it creates zero offset groups for a selected object in the scene. Okay, this is gonna be my last test. Let's see if it can do what I want it to. It's a kind of simple script that I find super useful. Might work. Let's see. I'm reading through it super fast for the first time. I'm creating everything from scratch here to talk to you guys about it. So I'll just copy it, paste it, and let's create an object. This can be kind of like representation of a controller that we might do that. And we can see that we're getting a cycle warning. So it's not doing anything correct the way we want it. It's probably these constraints, because we don't need any constraints for the zero offset group. It's just parenting things together and making sure everything's aligned. So it didn't do it correctly. It kind of has this general commands that we need to use. Overall, it added some extra stuff. So it looks like it kind of has a very general idea of what you need. It has a general idea of what the commands do. Putting it together in a logical way that actually works, not so much, at least not yet. Cool. If you guys have any resources for AI that you think I should look at for coding that is interesting, that might surpass what I found here, let me know. I'd love to check it out because I find this subject interesting, and if I see any huge updates in the future, I will make a video talking about that with you guys. All right, hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!